Shalom, Yasharallah. This your brother Dawadah, coming back at you with this here truth again. First and foremost, I want to give all praise unto YAHAWAH, BAHASHIM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHIM, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And salutation and much love for you, Aki, and pushing this truth and sincerity on the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. So I want to jump into this here lesson, which pretty much I'm going to just kind of, float a little bit through the spirit and grab out a couple precepts that, just on the top of my head real quick. But nevertheless, to go into a question that was asked, from one of the subscribers, but nevertheless, I might actually go into a series on this, because it's a lot to, there's a lot of different precepts and a lot of different scriptures that prove, different topics of, how do I say, what America is in the scriptures, more or less to say. But nevertheless, the question was asked, is America, Jerusalem, and so I wanted to go into that to kind of, I can kind of see where that concept is coming from. But nevertheless, I'm not sure. I believe this may be a doctrine that people are pushing, but nevertheless, as a word of advice, this is why it's important, to not really be, how do I say, mixing doctrines or going with these other camps. This is why, we can't have a so-called unity camp, because of the fact that you have different people pushing off different doctrines and things like that, to where, it's causing confusion. All right. But nevertheless, Slaki, give me 1 second. Nevertheless, I wanted to just go into this here topic, just, for edification's sake and to clear these things up. All right. So I'm going to start here in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 9, and I'm going to go to verse, let me see. I'm going to go from Ezekiel 9, verse 4 through 6. It says, "And Yahweh said to him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. And to the others he said in my hearing, go ye after him through the city, and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have ye any pity. Slay utterly old and young, both maid and little children and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary. Then they began at the ancient men that were before the house." Now, again, I'm not 100% sure where this doctrine is coming from. It was a question that was asked, but nevertheless, just going, through my mind of some scriptures, this is a situation where, here, basically, this is basically the elect being sealed, or going out, you also hear about going out to the highways and the byways and bidding as many to the marriage, so on and so forth, But here it says, and verse 4 says, "And Yahweh said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem." All right, now, if you put these scriptures in the context, you know what I'm saying? And, let's just say, you just now learning into these things. You understand that we went into captivity and so on and so forth. And we still in the captivity, which is important to understand, to have this whole roll, to eat the whole roll, to have the whole foundation. Because there's certain things that, like, salvation, you can't really define what the hell salvation is if you don't understand that there's different nations, all right, who the nation of Israel is and what their condition would be. All right, that they would be in captivity under their enemies in the last days, and that they would have to be saved from their enemies and delivered from their enemies. All right, if you don't have that in context, then you can't explain to nobody with like how do I say, with common sense, or with to make it make sense. You can't deliver somebody who you can't describe why they need deliverance from, or to save somebody if you can't tell them what they're getting saved from. All right, so nevertheless, you have to understand these things in context. All right, so now going back into context, all right. The Israelites was scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, all right, and then put into captivity. What we read in here is pretty much an end-time prophecy of basically like what you read in the book of Ezekiel 37, all right, the valley of the dry bones. So he's going out prophesying into the dry bones, all right. That's basically what we're reading here in verse 4 about, put a mark on the foreheads of the men that sigh and cry. All right, these men that sigh and crying for all the abominations, these men would be where? On the highways and the byways, also bidding as many to the marriage, also being set up as watchmen to warn the children of Israel. All right, which is also going to be is it a light thing that I would use, you basically roughly paraphrasing, to raise up the children of Israel, to gather all the tribes of Israel. These things all go hand in hand to one to another. All right, now putting that into place to the context of time of where you at. All right, the children of Israel were scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, but mainly here what the scriptures call Babylon the Great, Mystery Babylon. All right, so the Israelites, all right, for the most part, would be, you'd have a big bulk of them, all right, that would be in Babylon. All right, but here in Ezekiel 9 and 4 it says, "And Yahweh said, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. Now, if you just reading this like you would read any other book and just read it straight down and not putting things into context, because the scriptures say precept upon precept, line upon line. All right, so you can't just read this straight through, like from the very first page of the Bible to the very last page of the Bible and think that you're going to understand things. All right. So, for instance, well, nevertheless, I'll get that here in a second. But nevertheless, what you have to understand is Jerusalem, all right, is a people before it's a place. All right. And we always go into that. Now, to bring that into context in modern day today, let's just say that you have an Olympic game going on, right? Let's say in this Olympic game, you got America versus Russia, right? They're playing whatever game they got going, running, whatever. They got this Olympic match, maybe basketball, right? And let's say the Olympics is in Germany or some shit, right? Now, let's say that how do I say, Russia dominated America, or Russia wound up beating America, or Russia wound up dominating America. Like, oh, we took it to their ass, we beat their ass, whatever, whatnot, or give it to you on a different sense, right? You in high school or whatever, whatnot, and you got a high school football championship or a basketball championship. Now, let's say your high school made it to like the state champions, right? Now, you actually leave out of the county, the city, even you might even leave out of the state of where you actually go to school at. Let's say you are Miami-Dade high school or some shit, right? Or Miami-Dade high school. Now you go into some kind of state championship or whatever, whatnot, or some kind of regional championship, and you go into the state of Georgia, right? Now, when you're in the state of Georgia at your football game, basketball game, they're still going to address you as the Miami high school, Miami-Dade high school, whatever their mascot is, Tigers or Lions or whatever, they're going to still address them as that, even though they're in a whole different state. They're still represented. They're still representing from where they so-called from, right? Miami-Dade high school, they, even if they're in California playing some kind of game or some shit, they're going to still refer to them as Miami. All right. You're like, oh, that's Miami right there. Like, well, we nowhere near the state of the state of Florida, let alone the city of Miami. We way to fucking California. But you would reference the players on the team as Miami. Oh, that's one of the Miami boys. That's Miami over there. Who's that crowd of people? Oh, that's Miami over there. But you're not talking about the so-called land mass. You're talking about the people first, right? Or you watching any of these sport teams, oh, that's Dallas over there playing, oh, who got the ball? Dallas got the ball. Well, the actual football game is being played in like California somewhere, So where the fuck is the state of Texas for you to have the city of Dallas, So we even modern days today, how do I say, talk about people before it's a place. And a lot of times, again, if you had an away game or somewhere like that, you would still refer to the people on the team, most time as the city or the place where they're from, So this is like the same thing, Jerusalem is representation of the Israelites. All right. This is the city of those people, or just like, a group of Americans go somewhere else in another country, or somebody's looking at, oh, who's that over there? Oh, that's some Americans. That's, oh, that's America over there tripping, at the World Cup. Oh, they over there tripping. Who was tripping? Yeah, America was tripping. Like, bitch, we like 2,000, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,000 miles away from America. How do you know America tripping? The people is tripping, So if this is the mix-up where people say, oh, go through the midst of Jerusalem, understanding that this will be an end-time prophecy, that the prophets will be raising up the children of Israel, and they took it as far as they will be raising them up in the midst of the city, in the midst of Jerusalem, because they're reading it verbatim, going straight down, lacking the understanding of where the children of Israel will be in the last days, all right? Then that's where your confusion come into play, all right? But like the scriptures also say, you have to go line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little, all right? So real quick, let me go ahead and prove that their point. So Ezekiel 9:4 again, it says, and Yahweh said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. Real quick, let me just see what they define Jerusalem as real quick. It might just be the city of peace. Yeah, it's just saying, well, let me see. Yeah, it's just saying the city of peace here. But nevertheless, I was just trying to see if All right. It says right here. It says all right. It says from the Arabic, men or people of peace, perhaps house or habitation of peace, just as on the contrary, and transfer from the house to the inhabitants. All right. So basically, it's saying, again, how we say it modern days today is it's a people before it's a place. All right. So nevertheless, like Biggie, back in the olden days, they had these hip hop artists or whatever, whatnot. They come on the scene and be like, is Brooklyn in the house? The rapper themselves, they're not asking if the little city or the borough of Brooklyn, the actual landmass is inside this here club or whatever, whatnot. They're asking about the inhabitants. All right. So going back to Ezekiel 9:4, that's what it's talking about. The inhabitants of what you would call the actual landmass of those, the landmass of let's say Jerusalem, which is in Israel. All right. We're not really talking about the landmass, but the people that would inhabit their landmass. All right. So going back to understand that a little bit further, put in the context of what would happen to the children of Israel. All right. This is Deuteronomy 28. I'm going to go to 64 and 68 as well. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 64. And Yahawah shall scatter thee among all people. All right. So here's the context. All right. It says, and Yahawah shall scatter thee among all people. So this will be a future prophecy. All right. Which we, in this point in time, we already at this point where we scattered now. This is the time where we actually coming back together. But nevertheless, just to give you the idea where Israel would be at in a, how do I say, a timeline or a context setting. All right. And Yahawah shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth, even into the other. All right. So this is why I say, the majority of the Israelites, all right, are here in Babylon. All right. Like when you really look at it, if you understand how to translate who the biblical people are versus what they're called today, you will realize that basically America it's only really got like 2.5 people over here. You got Esau, the so-called white man over here, and then you got the northern and the southern kingdom of Israel. You got the kingdom of Israel, which is the northern kingdom, and then you got the kingdom of Judah, which is the southern kingdom over here on basically the whole Western hemisphere. Basically here in America, you got predominantly so-called Negroes over here. You got some Latinos over here, or really in Central South America, you got a lot of the so-called Latin American, which are the Northern Kingdom. All right. You got the Caribbean islands, which is the Southern Kingdom. So predominantly over here on this Western hemisphere, you only really got Esau and Jacob over here. You don't really have, you don't have basically an Asian country like China or no shit like that. Moab, you got Moab, Ishmael, Ham, all them, Japhet, they all on the other side of the globe, mainly over here, just like, real quick, Isaiah 14 and 13. It says, for thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven. First of all, let me go up a little bit. This is talking, all right, this is Isaiah 14 and 4. It says, thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon. All right. Now, this is talking about basically the Edomites are running Babylon, right? So-called white man. But this is, they're talking about a location, a location and also a people, right? So this is talking about the place, which is Babylon, all right? It says, thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how has the oppressor ceased and the golden city ceased? Now, in a carnal sense, what is the so-called greatest nation on the face of the earth and past due time all the way up into the same time today? It would be America, right? America's that golden city. This is where everybody wants to come to so-called make it, right? So, verse 4 is letting you know this is all talking about Babylon or the Edomites, and also the land that they inhabiting over here in America, Babylon, right? So jumping down to verse 13, it says, for thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven. This is what these Edomites are saying, all right? Now, the Edomites are also ruling from basically here in America. You got Edomites in France, Germany, and so on and so forth in these other European countries. But predominantly, like when you go further into it, all right, they're the beast, right? Now, the whore that the beast is riding upon, well, the whore that's riding upon the beast would be America, all right? So, but this is basically talking about the mainstay, the head of it, all right, here in America, all right? So it says, for thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of the Most High. So, you have the Israelites. Well, let me keep reading. It says, I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. So Esau is going to exalt his throne, meaning he's going to become the God and the ruler over top of what? The stars of the Most High, being what? The children of Israel, right? So it's because, hey, you're going to be like the stars of heaven, the sand of the sea, so on and so forth, This is talking about the children of Israel. Now, when you look at, again, the globe, you got the Eastern Hemisphere and the Western Hemisphere, right? On the Western Hemisphere, again, who do you have over here? You got 2.5 nations. And I say that because you got the Northern and the Southern Kingdom being that 1.5 half nation. But nevertheless, you got Esau, so-called white man over here. And then you got the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans over here. All right. That's predominantly who it is over here. I mean, you got some Africans over here, some Hamites, some Moabites, some Japhites, and some Ishmaelites, and some Ammonites, so on and so forth. Yeah, you see these other cultures over here, but nobody is as heavy of a population over here like the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right. But nevertheless, it says, I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. All right. Now, where is Esau's main stay at? All right. In the Western Hemisphere, in Northern America, because really all of this shit over here is all America. I don't know why they be tripping about, United States is only for the Americans. Go back, you illegal immigrants. Like, well, these motherfuckers are Americans too. You know what I'm saying? Like, Central America, they Americans. South Americans, they Americans. You know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, they over here, Esau main throne, all right, is over here in the United States, all right, in the congregations of the sides of the north, all right, North America, all right. So this is, again, where Israel is going to be at in the late, Israel's going to be in the four corners of the earth throughout all nations, but predominantly, this is the main state where you can find this at, all right? Just like, for an analogy, Ford Mustangs, right? You can find Ford Mustangs on anybody and everybody car dealership. Any used car dealership can have a goddamn Ford Mustang. You can go to a brand new Chevy dealership and go to their used car lot and find a Ford Mustang on their lot, right? But guess what? Predominantly, you'll find all the Ford Mustangs where? At the Ford dealerships. That's where you're going to find the majority of the Ford Mustangs that's for sale. Predominantly, because why? Ford is the one that makes them. That's where they manufacture from or produce from. That's who the so-called owner of that not technology, but that that item is. Ford owns that. So nevertheless, you're gonna find the biggest stay coming out of the Ford dealerships. All right, not to say that they can't have any Fords on used Chevy lots and so on and so forth. Let me get back to Deuteronomy 28. This is Deuteronomy 28. I'm going to go back to verse 64. It says, And Yahawah shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. All right. And that's predominantly what we over here doing here in the Americas, right? You got the Northern and the Southern Kingdom over here worshiping these false gods, these false idols, Christianity, and all that bullshit, Do I want to read that? No, let me just go on down to, hang on one second. Let me go on down to verse 68, just getting to the point. This is verse 68, and it says, And Yahawah shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships by the way whereof I spake unto thee, and thou shalt see it no more, and there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Now, this is a pretty beginner scripture right here for those, really for you Israelites that's waking up to be an Israelite. For the most part, this is probably the first scripture that you come across that you so-called find out that you're an Israelite, or the one scripture that you remember when somebody break down to you that you're an Israelite according to the prophecies. This is the scripture that a lot of our people will go around repeating when they first wake up. Now, and if you were taught, not to say if you were taught right, but if you were able to remember how you was taught about these things, you knew that Egypt wasn't talking about, that place over there in Africa, right? You would understand that, because again, when you being broke down to this, you didn't wake up that you was an Israelite in Africa, in the land of Egypt. You woke up here in America more than likely. Some people, you got Israelites that's actually in the land of Egypt that then woke up to this here truth, but mainly they woke up to this here truth via the internet. All right, our videos go pretty much worldwide, man. This, just like the scripture say, this gospel is going to be preaching to the four corners of the earth. All right, and we, a lot of us brothers got that YouTube studio app, which it'll break down your demographics and show you how these where these videos go around the globe, and that's how the lost sheep are being woken up around the globe. We don't really go and set up camps in these different locations. They watch our videos, but nevertheless, when when you woke up normally, for the most part, to this here scripture. So you would understand that Egypt isn't actually talking about in Africa. This here Egypt was basically talking about you was going to be brought back into bondage again on ships. And you was brought over here to America on these slave ships. And you would also repeat this to let people know, hey, well, we're Israelites because, see, here in Deuteronomy 28 and 68, they say we was going to go back into Egypt again on ships. And, again, if you really know about a lot of this, like, well, we didn't really, as a big, massive population, go back into Egypt again after we was delivered out of Egypt. You had some Israelites that actually went back to Egypt, and dwelt over there. But as a mass, the Israelites, we never went back over there, and we didn't go back into captivity in the land of Egypt. All right. But we did go into bondage. All right. And plus Egypt, we walked into Egypt. All right. When we got there to begin with. All right. And we walked up out of Egypt to get up out of there. All right. And when YAHAWASHI was born, his parents walked, I believe, a 3-day journey to get into Egypt. So you didn't have to really take no goddamn ship to get to Egypt. You see what I'm saying? And it wasn't that goddamn far off to where you in Egypt and you can't get back to your land, even though the Most High can make some crazy shit happen, like how we walking in the wilderness for 40 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's only a 3-day journey. How the hell, you know what I'm saying? But he was starving the people out, because the foreparents had to die off because of their lack of faith. And then the children was going to go in and save Joshua and Caleb. They were the only people that was from that same generation that actually got to go into the kingdom. But all the children, and the rest of the people wound up dying off, but the children got to go in. But nevertheless, getting back on the topic, all right, going back in this Deuteronomy 28 and 68, you would understand that this Egypt is talking about what? America, because this is a place, like I said, when you wake up, you understand that we went on the slave ships and the transatlantic slave trade, and predominantly we were scattered throughout the 4 corners of the earth, all right? Now, and we know that America didn't get the most slaves. There was other places that got more slaves in America, but predominantly the majority of the Israelites came over here to America, all right, from Africa and stuff, came over here to America, or to the Americas, all right, North, Central, and South America, and we was brought over here and put in captivity, all right? And you also have some so-called natives and stuff that was on this side that was shipped onto the other side as well, too. But nevertheless, just keeping in the context where the Israelites would be at, all right? So giving you these scriptures to go precept upon precept, line upon line, all right, going back into the context, right? We started out at Ezekiel 9 and 4, go through the midst of Jerusalem, through the city, and set a mark upon the men that sigh and cry, all right? And to prove that that's not talking about we got to go over to the land of Israel, go through the actual city of Jerusalem, and go preach out there. It's not talking about going out there, man. It's talking about going amongst your people, all right? Again, if you have let's say, again, you have you got a football game, right? You got the Dallas Cowboys playing somebody else, 49ers, right? They playing over in California, right? And they going out there and they interviewing the people. Well, we're going to go out here. We're going to talk to Dallas for a while. Now they going out there interviewing the people. They not actually talking to the land itself. Dallas, Texas. They talking to the people that inhabit the land of Texas and the city of Dallas. They talking to the people like that, or like the rappers would say, is Brooklyn in the house? So on and so forth. They talking to the people. All right. So look, the nation of Israel, we was uprooted up out of our land. All right. And it's a people before it's a place, because really that place was what called the land of Canaan. All right. But now after the Canaanites was taken up out of that land, it became what? The land of Israel. All right. And it was really only named that because we were the ones that inhabited that land. That's just like, you buy a house or whatever, whatnot. But let's say there's a house for sale and John live in that house, right? You will refer to, oh, that's John's house, and then you go and move into the house. Now it's your house. You will call it, oh, this is Steve's house now, whatever, whatnot, But nevertheless, that's what will wind up happening. That landmass name was changed into the land of Israel after we went in there and inhabited the landmass. But we were still already known as what? The nation of Israel, all right? The city of peace. That's what the word Jerusalem means. It actually means city of peace. Yaru Shalem, like the word Shalom, that means peace, just like, and that's in Jake's spirit, peace. We go around like, peace, what up, whatever, we always greet each other. We technically, even in our, not folly, but even in our dead state, in a dry bone state, just not knowing that we Israelites, that's how we greet one another. You see, Jake men walking around, they'll nod their head up or whatever, whatnot, or they'll chunk the deuces like peace. You know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, it's the same thing we would say, like saying shalom. It's the same exact thing. Shalom means peace, which shalom is pretty much in the word Yerushalayim, or the city of peace. That's what it means. But the people, all right, the people are the people of peace, or really the city of peace. All right, talking about the group of people. All right. Hopefully this is making some sense, but we're going to go to the next scripture. All right. Now, We just read how we was going to be taken into captivity. We was going to be scattered through the four corners of the earth. All right. So we're going to go from there. And like I said, I'm just throwing some scriptures together off the top of the head real quick, just to kind of prove this here point, and showing certain things in the scriptures that will show where we would be at, who would be over in that landmass, and why we wouldn't be referred to. Well, you could refer to us as Jerusalem, but we're not. Babylon and Jerusalem are two different things. Like really, just like America. America, technically isn't Babylon, but it's got it is Babylon. Let me not get somebody's no leeway for that. But nevertheless, it's just like in the book of Revelations, how it says, which is called spiritually Egypt and Sodom, right? It's taking out the traits like that. All right. So this is where, you're getting these names from. But nevertheless, America would be Babylon. All right. Jerusalem would be, depending on how you're talking about it right now, because the actual landmass and all that over there, you can find it on the map, Jerusalem, but really that's not the city of peace, man. That's this. Well, let me get it. Let me get in the scriptures real quick. This is Psalm 79 and verse 1, a psalm of Asaph. It says, O Yahawah, the heathen are coming to thine inheritance. Thy holy temple have they defiled. They have laid Jerusalem on heaps. All right. So again, now this is also twofold, because what they actually did, like what Yahawashi was talking about, like, yo, they're going to come in and pass about the city and there's not going to be one stone that's not overturned. All right. And that was twofold, because what they did come into the city and they actually destroyed the city, but then they also fleeced the people as well, too. Same thing here, man. They devoured our city, took over our city, but then they also took over us and took over our heritage as well, too. But nevertheless, who would be, how do I say, who would be actually in the landmass of Israel right now, all right? The people that would be in the landmass of Israel would be the heathen, the wicked, all right? These Edomites, all right? These fake-ass Jews, all right? It says Psalm 79 and 1, a psalm of Asaph, O Yahawah, the heathen are coming to thy inheritance, all right? Into the landmass. They over there in the land of Israel right now. They also taking our heritage, our nationality, and so on and so forth. Thy holy temple have they defiled. They have laid Jerusalem on heaps, all right? So, and I mean, actually, if you read down, it's going into both. It says, the dead bodies of thy servants have they given to be meat unto the fowls of heaven, the flesh of thy saints unto the beasts of the field, showing you how they defiled Jerusalem as far as a people, all right, and how we was devoured. Their blood have they shed like the water round about Jerusalem, and there was none to bury them, all right? But nevertheless, speaking of both things, the people and the place, we was devoured by these heathen. They came and took our heritage and so on and so forth. And then they actually took the landmass. All right. So from there, we're going to go to, let me see, Ezekiel 36 and 1. It says, and thou son of man, prophesy unto the mountains of Israel. All right. So now listen here. This is being spoken unto the people. All right. The people of the nation of Israel. It says, and say, ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of Yahawah. Thus saith Yahawah power, because the enemy have said against you, aha, even the ancient high places are in our possessions. All right, so what? This is being spoken to the children of Israel, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. The Most High is telling you what? That basically your house got stolen. They didn't hijack your identity. They hijacked your house. They kicked you out your house, whatever, whatnot. They stole your whip, man. That's what's being said here, all right? It says, aha, even the ancient high places are in our possession. So where would the ancient high places be at? In the land of Israel. All right, so who has possession of that? That would be what? The heathen, all right? Just like we read in Deuteronomy 28 and 68, all right, we was going to be sold into bondage. No man was going to buy us, and we're not going to see it no more, talking about our landmass. We wasn't going to be over there in a massive amount of numbers. Now, you do have some actual Israelites that's over there, but as a whole, we not over there in our homeland, all right? Verse 3, therefore prophesy and say, thus saith Yahawah, because they have made you desolate and swallowed you up on every side, that you might be a possession unto the residue of the heathen. All right. So again, where would the Israelites be in the latter times? They will be a possession unto the heathen. They will be in captivity under these other nations into these other countries. All right. It says, and ye are taken up in the lips of talkers and the infamy of people. Therefore, ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of Yahawah power. Thus saith Yahawah power to the mountains and to the hills, to the rivers and to the valleys, to the desolate waste, to the cities that are forsaken, which came a prey, a derision to the residue of the heathen round about. All right. And again, this isn't actually talking about any actual land masses right now. Like verse 4, they, when they reference these mountains, these hills, these rivers, these valleys, these desolate waters, these cities that are forsaken. All right. This isn't talking about actual locations. This is talking about people. This is like a metaphor for people, like if I was to say, sometimes I'd be like, people, because I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. People be like, oh, where are you from? Oh, I was actually born in Atlanta. Oh, how do you like Atlanta? So on and so forth. Like, well, yeah, Atlanta changed. I don't really like going back there because it's a lot of wickedness, whatever, whatnot, so on and so forth, But I'm not talking about the landmass. The landmass, other than the water and everything being defiled out there, but, the landmass ain't nothing really wrong with the landmass. It's the people that's out there, man. So what are we really talking about when we're talking about, oh, Atlanta, man, Atlanta crazy, man. Some crazy shit will happen out there in Atlanta. Well, it's not like that, you got trees that'll start whooping your ass, the grass, vines and shit, the ground open up, start swallowing you in up, rivers and start sucking you in. No, we ain't talking about that. It's just talking about the people, man. All right. Verse 5. Therefore thus saith Yahweh power, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen and against all Idumea. So not only these other nations, but Idumea, which is a Greek way of saying Esau, Edom, all right, the so-called white man. It says, and against all Idumea, which have appointed my land. All right, now this is actually talking about the landmass itself. It says, which appointed my land into their possession with joy of their heart, with despiteful minds to cast it out for a prey. All right, so just like we just read in Psalm 79, all right, they taken the ancient high places into their possession. All right, they appointed their land into their hands with joy and happiness. The Balfour Declaration, so on and so forth. All right, so look. That's not talking about, Jerusalem, like for a lot of the times, especially when you're reading in future prophecies, the majority of times when you're reading about Jerusalem, it's talking about a people. All right. There's certain times where it's not talking about a people, but it's actually talking about a landmass. Like here in verse 5, verse 4 is talking about the people, the Israelites. All right. It says, therefore, ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of Yahawah. All right. See, ye mountains. Mountains is talking about like they have the summit meeting. All right. It's talking about people. All right. Ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of Yahawah. Thus saith Yahweh power to the mountains. All right. And to the hills. Big government, small governments. Talking about groups of people. To the rivers, the valleys, and to the desolate wastes, and to the cities that are forsaken. The city of Atlanta. We shouting y'all out, Atlanta. We talking to the whole city. The whole city stand up. We want the whole city to come out and party with us live tonight at club so and so and so and so. We gonna have the whole city lit. Not talking about the actual ground that you're walking on, but the people. All right. Now, in verse 5, it says, therefore, thus saith Yahweh power, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen and against all Idumea. All right. Talking about a people. And what did these people do? Which have appointed my land. All right. The actual landmass, the land of Israel. All right. Into their possession with the joy of their heart, with despiteful minds to cast it out for a prey. So the land of Israel. All right, the land of Israel will be in possession of the heathen, of the enemies at this point in time. All right, they will be having control over the land, the actual landmass of Jerusalem. All right. This is, well, shit. This is well, I can start at verse 21, or Luke 20 and 20. Luke 21 and 20. And we shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that desolation is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee into the mountains, and them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them which are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe to them that are with child, to them that give suck in those days, for there should be great distress in the land and wrath upon the people. All right, so let me keep going. Well, nevertheless, this is talking about, when Jerusalem, basically the prophecy would take place in like 70 AD, basically. Titus, Vespasian, and Domitius would basically sack Jerusalem. All right, they actually went in, all right, and destroyed the city, and they actually, was putting it to flight and slaughtering a lot of the Israelites themselves. All right, this is how we first started getting scattered. All right, this was the first time we started getting scattered and getting chased up out of our land. All right, jumping down to verse 24. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword and shall be led away captive into all nations. So when the Romans came in and sacked Jerusalem, all right, and scattered us abroad, we was going to be carried into all nations. This was the start of us being scattered into all nations on the face of the earth. And Jerusalem, the landmass, shall be, and also the people, but also mainly here talking about the landmass, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles to the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So in twofold, These other nations will be licking our wounds and basically having us in captivity into the end. All right, that was their time of the Gentiles, but then they would also be in possession of the land of Israel. We wouldn't have possession of that. All right, we would lose, possession of the title of Israel. All right, the landmass. All right, and we still in this time frame right now until the Lord raises us up and take them out of power and plant us into our own land. Let me get it real quick. This is in Ezekiel 37 and like 21. Yep. Ezekiel 37 and 21. And say unto them, thus saith Yahweh power, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whether they be gone. All right. So again, you have to put into context. We will be scattered into the four corners of the earth. The heathen will come in and take down our nationality, our high places, and so on and so forth, and take our land, and they will be in our land to the times of the end. But here it says, Ezekiel 37 and 21, and say unto them, thus saith Yahweh power, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whether they be gone, and will gather them on every side and bring them into their own land. So where is the Israelites' own land? All right, in the land of Israel. All right, so if the Lord is going to bring Jerusalem back into Jerusalem, that's telling you that what? The children of Israel, who's being referred to as Jerusalem, they're not actually in the landmass of Jerusalem. All right, so and you still got the city of wickedness going on over there with the pride parades and so on and so forth. So that's not the city of peace over there. The land would be flourishing and thriving and so on and so forth, man. Those people have to bring in they got to bring in like irrigated water in for things to grow over there and plant trees and shit where it wouldn't naturally grow. They spend a whole lot just to make that place so-called thrive, and it's still really desolate over there, all right, because the holy people ain't over there, all right? But again, going into context, the Israelites will be scattered into the four corners of the earth. They will be out of their landmass, all right? Then at the end time prophecies, the Lord will raise them back up and bring them back into their own land, which will be in the land of Israel. But they will be, well, let me grab it. Let me grab this real quick. To tie another point that just came into mind. This is Zechariah 10, because we was just talking about how these places are sometimes called by different names. Well, this place in America is sometimes called by different names. Zechariah 10 and well, I'm gonna start at 9. And I will sow them among the people, so they shall remember me in far countries, and they shall live with their children and turn again. That's where we at right now. We in far countries, still scattered into the four corners of the earth. All right. It says, and I will bring them again also out of the land of Egypt. All right. So the Lord didn't bring us out of Egypt twice like that. We was delivered out of Egypt through the Red Sea one time. All right. The other Israelites that happened to just be living in Egypt, they wasn't really in captivity in the land of Egypt like that. You know what I'm saying? So the Lord, it's not a massive population of us over there. This Egypt is talking about what? Again, like Ezekiel or Deuteronomy 28, the house of bondage. That's where we at right now. All right. It says, and I will bring them again also out of the land of Egypt and gather them out of Assyria. And I will bring them into the land of Gilead and Lebanon. A place shall not be found for them. All right. So nevertheless, the Lord is going to deliver us up out of the land of the north and out of the far countries, the four corners of the earth we were scattered. All right. But again, the Israelites at this point in time would still be in the captivity, mainly here in Babylon. All right. This is Jeremiah 3 and 18. In those days, the house of Judah shall walk with the house of Israel. All right, now, real quick, let me go Ezekiel 37 and 22. This is Ezekiel 37 and 22, and I will make them one nation. That's a lot. Let me go up one. Well, we just read 21. Let me go to 22. It says, well, let me go back to 21 just to give you the context. So we just read this, though. But it says, Ezekiel 37 and 21, and say unto them, thus saith Yahweh power, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whether they be gone, and will gather them on every side and bring them into their own land. And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mount of Israel, and one king shall be king to them all, and they shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms no more. All right, so this is going into those two sticks, when they talk about what thou meanest by these two things, that sign that you see on the highways and the byways. All right, now the kingdom of Israel was split, all right, and we was basically divided from that time, even through the curses, even up until the same time. This is why you have hatred between the brethren, the different tribes, all right? we were separated. But now we in that time where the Lord is gathering us back together. This is the prophecy of the two sticks. You know, you can go to you can start at verse 15. All right, 15 on down to what we just read. You know, that's talking about those two sticks, putting the two sticks back together. And that's that sign that you see us with on the highways and the byways, with the 12 tribes sign. Basically, all 12 tribes is on one stick. And when you see us at camp, we all together. You know, we're not separated into two different kingdoms. You know, like in our camp, you got southern and northern kingdom. All right, you got Ephraim and you also got Judah in the camp. All right, but nevertheless, they was gonna be one nation. They weren't gonna be divided no more. So you have to also understand that the children of Israel was divided into two. The kingdom was split. You know, but nevertheless, let me go back to Jeremiah 3:18. In those days, the house of Judah shall walk with the house of Israel. All right. So again, this is what you're starting to see, what we just was reading in Ezekiel 37 about the two sticks coming together. The Lord was going to sew up the breaches between the two kingdoms and you know, start diluting that hate between the tribes. All right. It says, in those days, the house of Judah shall walk with the house of Israel, and they shall come together out of the land of the north. The land of the north. All right. Where is the land of the north? Here in North America, mainly. Predominantly, this is where most of the Israelites is at. And this is where the greatest salvation is going to take place. Because why? This is the most wickedest kingdom on the planet Earth. So it's going to go for it's going to get the worst judgment, therefore. All right. And plus, this is where Israel was highly oppressed. This is where it made headline news. Even though, like, let's say Brazil had more slaves than America. America is the #1 country known for slavery. All right. They was like one to be the last place to get rid of their slavery. All right. And they was the ones that oppressed us the most, even after slavery was over with. All right. But nevertheless, it says, and they shall come together out of the land of the north to the land that I have given for an inheritance unto their fathers. All right. And what was that land that the Lord gave as an inheritance to our fathers? The land of Israel. All right. Where the city of Jerusalem is at. All right. So this is a future prophecy that ain't taking place yet. Because why? The Lord hadn't came back yet. We ain't seen the chariots come down and scoop nobody up. Babylon, America's still here. All right. So what? This is a future prophecy, meaning that what? The Israelites, they still in captivity, mainly here in Babylon, here in America. All right. And also throughout the four corners of the earth. But the main population of us is right here. You know, the truth started coming out here in America. All right. Mainly up in New York, you know, with AHBAD and so on and so forth. You know, it started, the truth started flourishing here. You know, the YouTube, the prophesying on the YouTube started here. You know, it's going throughout the four corners of the earth. This is the main place. This is where how do I say, the main scene is going to take place at, man. All right, just like when you're watching the movie Batman, any of the Batman movies, you know, the main location for the shit just popping off is where? Gotham City, you know, or Superman, Metropolis, you know what I'm saying, or wherever, you know, any of these little shows or whatever, whatnot, they have a mainstay of where the main situation is going to take place, you know, Gotham City, you know. But nevertheless, just like in the scriptures, you know, at this point in time, the main focus is going to be where? Here in Babylon the Great, all right, Mystery Babylon, all right, because this is the place where the greatest destruction is going to take place. The greatest deliverance is also going to take place, all right. Matter of fact, let me go to, I'm about to close out here shortly. Jeremiah 16, come on. I think 18, no, 15. It says, well, 14. It says, therefore, behold, the days come, saith Yahawah, that it shall be no more said, Yahawah liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. All right. And this, we still talk about this today. You still see movies. We still talk about, like, if you hear the term Exodus, right? Basically, you know, Bob Marley said it the best. Exodus, movement, and he said job, but movement of Yahweh's people. All right, that's pretty much like the real definition of it, you know, but they would tell you that it's just a mass movement of people, but you have migrations, you know what I'm saying? They got a different word for that. But nevertheless, all right, the reason we still talk about an Exodus, and they can make songs about that and movies about that, so on and so forth, because it was like the greatest deliverance of the children of Israel ever on the face of the earth in history. That was like one of the greatest things that ever happened in history, all right? But nevertheless, and also just think about it. This was in the Egyptian, the downfall of the Egyptians. All right, you had the Babylonians that rose up, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Medo-Persians, the Grecians, the Romans. All these different nations will rise up. America, you know, the UK and all that. All these different nations will rise up. All right, but look, we still talking about some shit that popped off in the very beginning, right? The Exodus, right? and how the Lord delivered us up out of Egypt. All right. But it says, look, verse 14, Jeremiah 16 and 14. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that it shall be no more said, Yahweh liveth that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But Yahweh liveth that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, from all the lands whither he had been driven, and from all the lands whither he had driven them, and I will bring them again into their land that I had given unto their fathers. So, I mean, this is clear cut. It's telling you that, look, you know, we're not going to be talking about the old Egypt, the deliverance from there. We're not talking about that, but we're going to be talking about the new Egypt deliverance. But that new Egypt is where? In the land of the north. All right. But look, the Lord said he was going to deliver them from out of the land of the north and take them where? Back into their own land, into the land of Israel. All right. So now if you have to ask yourself this question, if you so-called and woke up that you're an Israelite and you believe that with faith, all right, because somebody then showed you through the prophecies and you have faith in that and you believe that, then, you know, you have to, you know, examine yourself to see whether you be in the truth or not. Because if you believe that based off of the prophecies that you under these curses, so on and so forth, then you would also have to believe that you're still in captivity. You know, you hadn't been delivered. You ain't seen the Lord yet. You still fighting against your enemy. Your enemy, you still see your enemy's face on the TV and at work and everywhere you go. So by a process of elimination, if you still see your enemy walking around without chains on it, on their necks and shit like that, you still up under their foot. What does that, you know, by a process of elimination, what does that let you know that you still at? You still in captivity. All right. And so if you still in captivity, that means that you not into the land which the Lord gave to your forefathers as a possession. All right. And if you're not in that land, that means you're still in captivity where? In the land of the north where you would be at. And who would be in your land? These heathen. Edom, Esau, Idumea. All right. We read that in Ezekiel 36. All right. So the scriptures is clear as day is of who is who and who is where. You know, like I said, Lord will, I'll probably go a little further deeper into this, like giving out some precepts that's going to describe America in the scriptures, and they'll basically name it as what? Babylon, all right? But nevertheless, like, and also, I mean, it's under a lot of different names. Like here it's saying the land of the north. You also got Egypt, Syria, or Assyria, Sodom and Egypt, or, you know, things like that, you know? Let me go from here to, I'm going to close out here, actually. This is Jeremiah 23 and 7. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that they shall no more say, Yahweh liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, but Yahweh liveth, which brought up and which led the seed of the house of Israel out of the north country and from all the countries where I had driven them, and shall dwell in their own land. So again, this is their own land. Where is their own land? It will be the same land that the Lord gave their forefathers. All right. Now, who are some of their forefathers? All right. Let's just talk about the righteous times, the righteous time frames and rulerships that we had throughout our lines. You know, we actually did, I think, have a couple other righteous rulerships, but you still had a massive wickedness going on. But nevertheless, under what? King David and King Solomon. All right. Now, when they was in righteousness and peace, and they had peace and they was dwelling in safety, all right, for I believe like what 40, maybe a little more than 40 years or things like that. But nevertheless, where were they located at? All right, they was actually in the land of Israel at that point in time. All right, that was when they was in peace and everything else. All right, but now we're not in that, you know, in peace. We actually in captivity. All right, we don't have no assurance of our life, man. All right, this is a place where we have no assurity of life, and you know, we basically fear the threat of death day in and day out. All right, but we still in captivity. Where will we be in captivity at? And far from our homeland, into the four corners of the earth, but mainly in a place called Babylon, which the scripture's name is Babylon. But by a process of elimination, again, going through the prophecies, if you know that the Israelites went into captivity on slave ships, they weren't going to be bought or sell. You can look at America and look at these other precepts that also prove that as well, too. All right. Another precept that just came to my mind real quick, but slipped my mind. But nevertheless, I guess I'm gonna just go ahead and close out with that one. You know, Lord willing, he was edified with this. If you got any, if it wasn't clear, if you got any other questions or concerns, you know, drop it down in the comment section, or any other topic. You know, you can always drop comments down in the comment section. You know, Lord willing, I'll be able to, you know, answer your question, address your situation, or whatever, whatnot. But you know, like I said, this was a basically a request, and you know, I see that possibly that there's people out there teaching that Jerusalem and Babylon are the same place. You know, that's not necessarily true. You know, You know, you could talk about Jerusalem being a people. All right, the people, the city of peace, as far as the people are in Babylon. Yeah, but the landmass of Babylon and the landmass of Jerusalem is not the two same landmasses. All right, but nevertheless, you know, Lord willing, that was edifying. Let me see. I could have went and got. Yeah, we're not gonna grab that. But nevertheless, Lord willing, you was edified with this here lesson. Until next time, I say, call halal Yahawah, Bahashim, YAHAWASHI, Bahashim, Ruchakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of great millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And salutation and much love for you. I can push this truth and sincerity on the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. Until next time, I say, stay strong and shalom.